Welcome back. I'm here with Clive Wotton, and we are going to just do a little summary and talk about what we've seen this morning. Thanks for staying on with us if you're still watching online. Clive, you were just telling me that you found the whole thing fascinating. What was the best part for you?
It's been absolutely wonderful, outstanding. I mean, often being involved in the automotive business, we go to all sorts of conferences on product development, new vehicle launches, and it's been refreshing to be the whole day. And I think I'll be the first person that says horsepower and the first person to say torque. And it's actually lovely to have a completely different perspective brought to what transportation and mobility actually means. And if you'll indulge me for a few seconds, Anne-Marie said something about different perspectives, you need to visit different countries. In our office in China, in the middle of Shanghai, we have a particular issue. Shanghai is now 24 million people. And I talked to some of the engineers there, and their biggest problem is finding affordable accommodation within a commutable distance, 2 hours to 2.5 hours on a small scooter. And the driving factor is, can they take the battery out of the scooter, take it upstairs and charge it? Now, you have to go there and spend a couple of weeks with the people, because when you travel on the subway, sardines, has nothing compared to the pushers on the subway to get absolutely packed on. Hence, people make choices, they drive electric scooters. But the fact they can't afford to live, can't charge the battery up, and they take risks of driving at night with the lights off to get a further range. And that's where you need, I think, a different perspective from living in southeast Michigan to go and see what mobility is all about. So for me, it's been absolutely eye-opening.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up. I tried to get to a little bit of that, talking about the enthusiasts, because that's, part of the space that I play in. We're always talking about the cool stuff and the fun stuff, and there is definitely, I think, a place for that. I think that is sort of the driving economic factor in a lot of places, and a lot of folks that I talk to are sad when we start talking about car sharing and talking about not having cars. Like that's sort of like we're talking about the end of something that they find to be incredibly fun.
Well, again, a different perspective. California, we have the office in Santa Clara, and it's wonderful to go and take these different perspectives. And as you know, there's a number of advanced sort of car company, the technology divisions, the forward-looking divisions based in California. And a really eye-opening experience was brought to me of one of the companies there describing what they see the vision of the future is 25 years out, of being able to put, there's mum and dad, and they put the two kids in the car, and they program in the GPS, let's go to the Grand Canyon. And the windows go opaque, so you can't see out of them. The front seats turn round, mum and dad are talking to the kids, they go to sleep, and they wake up at the Grand Canyon. And they said, that's the ultimate driving machine. And you think about that, and that's a very different perspective for the future.
Well, definitely. If you have a car that's driving itself, then you don't necessarily need to worry about real-world driving experiences, right? You don't have to worry about folks who rev the engine to get to a red light and then brake and then rev it again. Yeah. You can really control MPG in a much better way.
You have a look at the efficiency that will come with cars with controlled acceleration. We don't need to do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds or 4 seconds or 5 seconds. It's uncomfortable. So when you actually get to cars that are actually comfortable to drive, comfortable to be in, don't collide with other vehicles, we'll find the economies of cars will just go up and up. And just as Margot says, a lot of the technologies exist there already, and we just make sensible choices, drive cars sensibly, and we can be very close to where the legislation is, and we should be looking 25 years ahead of that.
So will it be like, now you own horses, right? And so to ride horses, you have to kind of be in a special area. You can't just sort of ride them down to the post office these days. So is that what we're looking at with cars, that if you really want to enjoy driving, you're going to have to go to a special park and drive around a track?
It could well be. We mentioned earlier the sort of space and that we have around us here in Michigan, in fact all over the US. So I think we'll actually find there'll be multiple use and ownership models. You might own a special car for occasional driving during this transitionary period, and shared car services to commute to and from work. 25 years ahead, it'll be something rare. As you say, you'll go to a museum or a special event center or something like that. Here in Michigan, we go down to the Henry Ford Museum and get into a Model T and experience what it was like driving cars of sort of 60, 70, 80 years ago. And the thing that strikes me is the smell. Go and see some of these old cars and smell what old engines and no after treatment is like, and you realize it was an unsustainable future.
Well, we are here for the RICARDO's 100th anniversary, and you were telling me last time I spoke to you that you guys have a group of consultants who take a look at these sorts of issues. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of that group and what you guys are doing now?
We do indeed. We have actually a number of functions in RICARDO. So we start at the front end with RICARDO Strategic Consultancy, which are obviously derived as strategic consultants looking at management practices, product development, and really where technology is actually going. We have the main technical consultancy portion of the company that deals with a lot of product development and legislation. And then we also have a large part of the company focused on the environment, both in terms of policy and environmental impact and advising regulatory authorities. So hopefully from within RICARDO, no matter where you touch us, we can look at where the future products may be, right through to sustainability, reusability and recyclability at the tail end of their life. So we can generally look over a 30 to 50 year lifespan of most products. It's not a 4 or 5 year lifespan of an individual vehicle. It's actually from digging the raw resources out the ground or pumping them out the ground through to returning them back and repurposing them hopefully at end of life.
You know, I love sitting around talking about all this stuff because I feel like when we talk about the future, you're sitting around talking with real optimists. You know, even if we're talking about negative things like climate change and we're talking about scarcity of fuel sources, folks who are thinking about these issues are the folks who are looking for the solutions. And so that's part of why I said yes to come here and have had so much fun with it. So tell me, like, what's your greatest hope then for the future of mobility and sustainability?
My greatest hope is absolutely the fact that we will be able to get into vehicles in the future and have zero impact on the environment using them, because they will be, energy derived from hydro, solar, wind, so there'll be no immediate carbon production. They'll be completely comprised of repurposed or recycled components from hopefully a diminishing vehicle fleet in the world. We can get in and use it. It's going to be in a shared service. I never want to pay for parking. I want somebody to sort of, take the car to where I need it to. It's available when I get back. So the lowest possible impact on the environment, lowest possible impact on personal ownership would be a perfect vision for me.
You know, we were having a debate in the office the other day about one of the things that you brought up as a good thing, and we were seeing it as a horrible thing, and it's the ability to just have your car perpendicular parked for you. Not parallel parked, but just go into a parking lot. And so, one of the arguments against that is that it really reduces driver skill, right? Like if you don't even have to know how to pull into a parking lot, into a parking spot, what are we saying about sort of the future of what people are capable of doing?
Well, you heard my comment earlier, think about maybe 2050, we'll look back, why on ever did we let people drive cars themselves? With all the accidents and the problems and the disputes and that. I mean, even recently in the last 2 weeks, there's been insurance companies and, down in the filings on the Wall Street filings, you can actually read about insurance companies now beginning to warn people that future business may be impacted by autonomous vehicles because it will completely avoid accidents. I think that's actually quite a good thing for the future.
And they're seeing it as a financial problem.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's revolutionary what's happening here. The personal ownership, the total consumption, discard it and waste will go to a completely circular use profile of recovering all of the materials, as much energy as possible, and minimal impact whenever we're using vehicles.
Well, I think that's it for us. So thank you for a
very
really
much.
enjoyable morning.
Thank you. It's been really great. Thank you to our panel. Thanks.